Hey, what's up guys, it's Alex again at La Salvado. So I'm having more fun with my 2015 GLA 250. So I changed the thermostat yesterday. In the end it seemed like it was the water pump the issue, so I went ahead and swapped. Well, I didn't swap it yet. I took it apart. It was a pretty hefty job. I watched another guy on YouTube, he had a pretty nice video. I didn't do it exactly the same way he done it because I'm stubborn, I guess. I found other tricks. I had to remove a little less stuff than him. It was quite tricky, honestly. We were two guys doing this job. And you definitely need a little helper for a few of the things. The rest I could probably do everything myself, but I didn't have any time to waste today, so we done this two-man job. So I'll just give you a quick look around at what I done. And good luck, man, because honestly this is definitely not a do-it-yourself job, and even mechanics like me, this job makes you struggle, guaranteed, 100%. But it wasn't so bad. I got it off. The time's at now 12:30. Took me about 2 hours to remove the water pump, so I mean it's doable. You just have to be a little patient and use your brains, because there's a few little complications and a few tricks you have to do. So here, let's start this simple. Disconnected the battery, took out the inlet pipe again. I had to remove it yesterday to do the thermostat, but I had to remove it again. So inlet pipe going from the turbocharger intercooler pipe to the throttle body, remove that right here. This water hose going to the rad hose here, disconnect that. You have this crossover pipe going to the back of the motor. There's a hose in the back there that connects to it. 2 bolts, you see the little bracket, one right here, one's over there in the back. You got to get those 2 Torx or female Torx off the engine. Then you have another one hiding under here somewhere. There's, you see the treads for it. The pipe's out of the way right now because I have to move it. And there's another one right there. So you got to get those 4 bolts out to get the pipe loose, because the tip of the pipe goes in the water pump. So I had to get that out. Then next, you got to take all the shield off the turbo. You have to remove the 202 sensors. This one you have to remove to get the shield off. The other one you have to remove to get the water pump out of there. I had left it there at first, and I wasn't able to get the water pump out of the hole with the O2 sensor in the way. Then you have to disconnect the lines. The other guy in the other video, I saw the guy removed them completely off the block. Honestly, I was really struggling to get them off the block side, so I just removed them on the turbo side. So oil feed line here, oil return line underneath, they're right here. I was able to toss them to the side. So I basically, I took out the 2 screws holding the brackets on the block. They're pretty well hidden in there. I got in there with a mirror. I was able to see where the little ears for the bracket holding the pipe to the block were. So I got these 2 bolts out for the oil feed and oil return line, and then I was able to rotate the pipe out of the way, so I made myself some room. I also loosened the pipe for the fill pipe for the transmission. I don't know if I really had to, but at first we were trying to get this cross over water pipe here out of the way, but it never came out. So once the pipe was loose, I was able to move it up to get it out of the way while I was pulling the water pump out of there. Also, you have to remove these 2 the coolant lines going to the turbo. So you have the bracket there, bolt in the middle. Take out the 2 pipes, they both go to the water pump. Remove those 2, and then this pipe here. This was a real mess, this pipe. So you have this little bracket here. It's right underneath the coolant pipe going to the turbo, and the clamps in the way. So you have to take the pipe, the rubber hose feeding or returning the coolant to the turbo, pull that off. Then you're able to get at that little screw that's there holding this water pipe in place. The pipe goes under the engine mount, goes all the way to the back of the motor. I mean, I don't see how you could remove this without taking the engine mount off and everything. So I left it in place, took out the other screw. There's another screw here holding it to the block. and I kind of bent it out of the way, so I was able to get enough room to get the water pump out of there. It's really tricky to get the water pump out of there. It's very, very little room. But once you have the feed lines out of the way, everything removed, O2 sensor out of the way, I was able to squeeze it. I passed it through here. I actually pulled it out from here, and it came out. It was really, really tight, but I was able to get it out of there. The belt's also a pretty nice trick in there. There's absolutely no room in there. So we ended up doing this 2 guys. And what I do, I pull on the belt between the compressor and the crank pulley. I pull on the belt to release the tension on the tensioner. And while we were doing that, I snipped myself a little piece. I guess I took this. I snipped a little piece, I'd say about an inch long. And with my long nose, I was able to put it in the hole to lock the tensioner in the release position, so I could get slack off the belt to get the belt off the water pump pulley. And then from there, what else did I do? I mean, once all that's off, it's really not that bad. There's only 3 bolts holding the water. Oh yeah, also I had removed this this housing here. There's a 3 bolt flange housing. I got that out of the way just to make myself some extra room, because where's the housing? It's right here. So you've got this guy here. It's mounted like this on the water pump, and this, the metal pipe I showed you earlier, the metal crossover pipe going to the driver's side, connects in here, and it was completely jammed. So I was really struggled to get that that piece off of there. I sprayed some silicone lube in there just to make it a little, to free it up, and I was able to yank this off, get this off the car. And here, the water pump, you basically have 3 bolts, 1, 2, 3, that's all that's holding it. You have an O-ring on this side, so it was kind of stuck on that side also, but once you get the 3 bolts out and everything's out of the way, you're able to wiggle, and eventually it's going to pop out. And then I got the water pump off the block, and I was able to slowly work it to, like I said, pass it through here. I forget, I had to rotate it somehow, because you have the actuator here that's in the way. And I mean, it's pretty bulky water pump. I really don't understand how they figured this out, but anyways, I mean, it passes. Look, I have it in my hands. You see the space I made for myself. A lot of hidden bolts. You need a bit of patience, but like I said, I got it out in 2 hours, so I mean, it's not the end of the world. And here, while we're here, I think I figured out the issue with this pump. This actuator is completely seized. So when I tried to move the actuator, let's see if I could foam it out somehow. Let's do this from here. Bring the water pump here. So here, I think it's seized in this pivot. That's I'm under this impression. I'd have to take it apart, but see how it released for some reason. But when I was trying to move it earlier, it was completely jammed. Look how, oh, there it goes. So I guess I got it to move a bit. Maybe now it's gonna work, but I'm definitely not gonna reinstall this pump in there. So this actuator arm here, I'm pretty sure it's seized in this little pivot here, and I'm not sure how they work inside, but I'm guessing when it reaches a certain temperature, the vacuum operated actuator opens veins inside the water pump and lets the coolant flow through it. And I guess it was jammed in the position where the coolant wasn't flowing, because this car, you would let it idle for 5 minutes and it would start overheating, and there was absolutely no heat inside the car. And after 5-10 minutes, yeah, it was going to 120 on the dash, and the scanner plugged in and I was monitoring. Yeah, it's really hard to move this thing. I mean, now it moves, but when I try to bring it the other way, it jams completely. So I'm under the impression the problem was this actuator system here preventing the water pump. So that's it, I guess. Like I said, I'm pretty sure the actuator was the issue in this car. For some reason, Well, maybe I'll tear it apart just to see inside what it looks like. If I do, I'll maybe upload a little bit of that video. Yeah, like I said, what happened was the car was overheating. There was absolutely no heat inside the car. The fan would start going when the car overheated, but there was absolutely no heat at the rad either, because you could put your hand behind the fan and you could feel it was basically cold air blowing. So either there was no coolant inside the rad, or the coolant that was inside the rad was cold. Definitely the coolant wasn't circulating from the engine to the rad or the heater core or pretty much anywhere, because the engine overheated. Like I said, 5 minutes it was already creeping up to 120. I had the scanner plugged in, and if you would let it idle for 5-10 minutes, it will go to about 250 Fahrenheit. That's obviously above 212 Fahrenheit boiling point, so there's definitely something wrong at that point. So I would expect this car to be running, I don't know, 190, 200 when everything is running good, and the fan's operating and everything should stay around 90 degrees Celsius. So that's it. We'll see now when the new water pump comes in. I'm going to check the actuator, make sure I pinpoint the problem, and I'll put everything back and see how it goes. So there you go, I got the new water pump, a HEPU pump. I don't know if this number helps you anyway. If you want, I could put the OEM number in the link, but they're pretty available. So I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Here, look, the actuator works pretty nicely on this one, as opposed to this one. It eventually goes and then it jams, and it's somewhat working now, but initially when I took it off the car and I had to pry it with a screwdriver to get it to move, so I think it was just jammed and position, and the vacuum wasn't strong enough to move the actuator, and like I said, probably it was in the closed position, not letting the fluid circulate from the wherever it has to circulate inside the water pump. So there you go, and have some fun and put it back. Try to leave this little flange, I took it off like I said earlier to when I removed it, but now when I'm reinstalling it, I'll try to leave it on there. I hope it won't interfere with anything. If I have to, I'll remove it just to make my life easier. So here, boys, here is I got the new pump. Found a way to pretty easily put it in right through here, clear the fan, and right in the hole. Now a little bit more trickeries here to flip it over, but pretty sure I'll get it in there now. Maybe I'll have to remove that plastic flange like I said earlier. I'll try not to for now. Let's see what happens. Almost there. I think I'll remove that flange. It's gonna make my life a lot easier, because right here, when I try to rotate the water pump, it's hitting against the turbo housing. So I'll remove that flange. So here, these are the very tricky bolts. They're the bolts that hold these brackets on the return line and the feed line for the turbo, the oil feed and return line. You could see the little piece of brown paper, because my trick, I put a little bit of brown paper in my socket there to hold the bolt tight. And see, there's one there. You're actually looking through the mirror now. This is I don't know if you can see from here. Get the view of the camera. Actually see here. See, right there. I mean, they're very tricky, especially the one on the left there. I'll show you my little setup I made, because the AC line there is interfering. Here's my pull. Here, so I had my E12 with a U-joint and an adapter because I don't have a, this is E10? Yeah, E10. I don't have a E10 quarter-inch, so I use my adapter and I use my quarter-inch ratchet because with the 3/8 ratchet, the extension was actually hitting the pipe here and I couldn't get the right angle, and it was always cocked a bit, so I wasn't able to get the bolt right in, the hole straight in. It was very tricky. I mean, I was in there with the mirror looking exactly where I was aiming. So that's a little trick. So I had the lines in, I put them in first. The top one wasn't so bad. The thinner one, the thicker one, the return line was actually pretty tricky. So I just had the bolt in there just to guide it in, so I had it in the right angle. And then I was able to put the lower bolt. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten the 2 top bolts on the turbo and pursue my journey. So there we go, guys. The car's back up and running. Got everything back on. I'm waiting for the fan to come on now. It's been running for at least 10 minutes right now. Nothing's overheating. It's blasting hot air inside the car, so everything seems fine. And I'm just waiting for the thermostat to open, make sure the level's good and everything. And while I was waiting, I decided to open up the pump to see what's going on inside, and there we got it. So like I was explaining earlier, it was very hard when I initially took the pump off the car to move this rod. It seemed like it was jammed, so I'm guessing it's jammed on this pivot here. I'll take off the rod in a second now just to make sure that what I said is exactly what it is, but I'm pretty confident that's a problem. And here, when you got this plunger, opens and closes. See, it's so hard to, can't even, there we go. So now it's in the normal position, where this would be like this. So if it was in this position, it would be fine, because the flow would circulate. But when the plunger is pushed out, pushes on this here, and it basically blocks off the system. I guess this is their little device they designed to make the engine warm up faster, but obviously it's prone to failure, especially here in Montreal, Canada. A lot of bad winter, heat, hot, cold, a lot of snow and salt and crap, so everything seizes up, and there you got it. So the plunger was stuck in the pushed position, had to clap it in this position, blocking the flow of coolant going inside the motor, and there you go. That's why it failed. So, and there's no way to unjam this while it's installed on the car, because when it's on the car, it's like this, and this is basically sitting right against the alternator. So if you would want to try to actuate this by hand, try to move it out of place, try to free it up, you probably have to take out the alternator, AC compressor to get at it. And really at that point, if you do all that job, might as well just go and change it, because I'm guessing it's gonna happen again. So there you got it. A nice job, keeps you busy, keeps the mechanic out of trouble, and now customer's gonna be happy. This car's back on the road, no more issues. Enjoy, guys.